Computer. All good there? Thumbs up. Yeah, sweet. All right, we'll get started. So today we're going to talk about mastering cardio and how to understand different types of cardio and trying to maximize your results. I feel like cardio is definitely one of the main methods of training for most people, but I feel like it can be often misconceptualized and often interpreted in terms of how it's implemented. So hopefully this presentation gives a bit of clarity in regards to that and some very simple steps for everyone to use. A bit of background about myself. Been at Get Going for just above 2 years now. So been coaching in that time, doing sports science as well. So I love coaching and also I love Get Going as well, which says a lot about me still being here after 2 years. So today's agenda, just a quick run through. We're going to talk about what is cardio. Again, I feel like it's a very common buzzword, a lot of misconceptions about it. So hopefully my explanation clears that up. Talk a bit about energy systems. Again, we're not in like a science lecture, but I feel like having a basic understanding of the different energy systems that contribute to your energy production during cardio is important to understand, and how we might use that information to plan our sessions. And then also a bit about heart rate zones. Again, how different heart rates and what areas you're in can dictate what adaptations you can get. And then follow that up with some programming considerations and how we can tie that in towards your goals. And at the end, a bit of questions as well. So in terms of cardio, the easiest way I like to describe it is your heart is a dumb muscle. So it will beat faster or it will beat slower, depending on the intensity you're working at. So it will beat faster if your body is doing some sort of physical activity where you need more nutrients or blood supply. And it will beat slower if if your body doesn't require as much blood supply or nutrients. So faster or slower, and that gives us a wide range of different activities that we can fit under the term cardio, because there are a lot of different activities, especially physical ones, where we can do to increase our heart rate. A lot of people think that cardio is running or cardio is swimming, but in actual fact, we can do lots of modalities that can induce an increase in demand, where we can increase our heart rate to the different zones that we need to work at in order to have that adaptation in mind. So I think that's the best way to think about cardio, is something that gets your heart rate going up, essentially. We're going to talk about energy systems. All right. So again, I know we're not in a science lecture, but I feel like having a basic understanding of this will help us formulate our cardio sessions and understand what different heart rate zones interact with what different types of effects. So this is the general outline of it all. There's 3 different systems at play, but I don't want you to remember these scientific names. All I want you to think about here is this instead. So I want to use a money analogy here. So we have the credit card system, the cash system, and also the salary system. Okay. And then instead of talking about energy production, we're going to talk about money instead, on the y-axis. And then at the bottom here, it will just be time elapsed. So we talk about the credit card system first and foremost. All right. So if you think about the credit card system, it gives you instant access to money. It's quite easy to use. And when I say that, imagine going to the shops and trying to pay for your goods or whatever you bought. All it takes for you to do in order to pay it off is to take it out of your wallet, tap and go, and then you're off. All right. And you can see here, the credit card system is a one-step process where it provides a very short or quick access to energy, or in this case, money. However, you don't want to use it for long periods of time because you accumulate a lot of debt. So hence why, over time, it doesn't help you with too much there. So it's quick and easy, one-step process. However, over time, it's not very useful. The cash system, so cash on hand in particular, relatively quick access to money and easy to use. However, a bit slower than a credit card system because there's a bit more steps involved when you're doing the transaction. So same scenario, you're going to the counter, all right, you're paying your goods and services and whatnot. So instead of taking out your credit card, tap and go in one step, there's a few more steps involved. So you have to count the amount of money that's in your wallet, count to ensure that you're hitting the right amount, and then give it to the person at the register. They have to count it up, making sure that you're not doing a dodgy on them. And then afterwards, they'll give you the change. All right. So auto steps just makes it a bit slower, and hence why it kicks in just a bit after the credit card system. However, it's a bit more sustainable because it doesn't give you as much debt, which is why it still kicks in even after a long period of time, as you can see here on a yellow line. However, it will run out eventually because you're going to lose the amount of cash on yourself on hand, but you can still withdraw from your salary or your bank account. So you still have some sort of involvement there in the long term. And then the most important one, arguably, is the salary system. All right, so the salary system takes longer to access and also takes longer to use because you have to wait 1 or 2 weeks depending on what your pay cycle is in order to access it, and you have to get it from your bank account. All right, so there's a few more steps involved for it to be used. However, it forms a base of your total money. All right, most of your money comes from your salary, and as a result here, over time, the salary will be the most influential contributor to your total money over time. And if your job is stable, you can use it for a very long time, which is what the salary helps with. Any questions there? No, all good. All right, we're going to talk about heart rate zones, all right, quickly. So there's a lot of different models in terms of heart rate zones. I know there's 3 zone system, there's one where there's a 5 zone system, and there's also one where there's a 7 zone system. Although it might be a bit confusing at the start, the main point is all these zones or different models, they basically represent the same thing, but some of them just go into more detail in regards to the varying heart rate zones. So just for simplicity's sake, we're just going to focus on the 5 zone model because I feel like that best represents the different adaptations that occur at the particular heart rate zones. So in the 5 zone system, we have 5 zones, as the name suggests. We've got the active recovery zone, which is zone 1, and that's about 50 to 60% of your max heart rate. All right. And the best way to describe it is, in terms of its adaptation, is that you're going on a holiday to recharge your batteries. So it doesn't really do too much from a physiological standpoint, but it's a good way to help you recover, help flush out any byproducts that might have accumulated after doing long amounts of physical activity. And the zone 2, which is probably one of the most common ones out there in terms of people discussing about it, is the endurance one. So it's about 60 to 70% of your max heart rate. And again, the best way to describe it is a salary raise. So increasing the amount of energy that your salary can produce. So increasing the money that your salary contributes to your total money. All right. And then we have zone 3, which is a threshold zone. It's about 70 to 80%. And this zone helps with your cash system. All right. So you're able to use your cash on hand for a bit longer because you learn how to avoid spending on indulgences or takeaways. So you're not wasting your money. So you can use your cash more often, all right, for a longer period of time. So you see here, your cash system peaks at about 60 seconds. However, by training in this zone, this green one, you can push that a bit further to the right. Then we have zone 4, which is your VO2 max, which is quite similar to your salary, zone 2, sorry, and it helps increase your salary system, right? You get a salary raise. And then zone 5, again, quite similar to the cash system, quite similar to the zone 3 system, sorry. It helps increase the amount of cash that you have on hand, all right? So they're quite similar. Zone 2 and 4 are quite similar in terms of their effects, and zone 3 and 5 are quite similar in terms of their effects as well. The only difference here is that zone 4 and 5 are a bit more intense in their approach. So you have to work a bit harder. And also forgot to mention, in terms of max heart rate, a good measure or a good way to figure it out is using this formula. So 207 minus your age multiplied 0.7, that'll give you a rough estimate of your max heart rate. However, it's not the most accurate, but it's a good way just to get a gauge. All right, I want to talk about program design. All right, so some key considerations when talking about cardio and programming is these 4 points that I've boiled it down to. So the first one is how much time do you have? I feel like this is a really important step to negotiate because this will dictate how many sessions and how you can split your training across the week from a logistical point of view. There's no point trying to give you or trying to assign yourself 5 different sessions across the week when you only have time for 2. So doing this is really important just to see the limit in terms of the amount of sessions you can do. The next one is what are your goals? All right, so this is really important to identify because this will dictate the method of the cardio session that will help you in order to reach your goals. All right, so more about the method. And then 3 and 4 is basically talking about consistency and adherence. All right, so we want to ensure that what you're doing is something that you like, something that you can do on repeat on a frequent basis. There's no point trying to give you an exercise where you're not enjoying it or you're hating it, which can lead to lower adherence. You don't want to do it as often. All right, so ensuring that this is ticked off can go a long way to making sure that we're consistent and getting the results that we want. And at the end of the day, consistency is number 1 in terms of training. All right. Some general principles to follow when forming, I guess, cardio sessions and considerations is start with the lowest hanging fruit. All right. So you want to move the needle forward with the least amount of effort applied. When I say that, let's take an example of a person who, office worker, likely sedentary, has limited experience with training. It wouldn't be ideal for them to start off by doing high intensity cardio sessions, for example, because 1, they won't be able to do it, and 2, they'll probably hate you for doing that. Okay, so you want to start off with something that's easy for them to do and get a good baseline to work off. So for them, it might be as simple as accumulating steps over time or getting them to move more often during the day. That's probably a great starting point for them to build their cardiovascular base. The second one, and it's kind of related to the third one as well, is you want to limit your high impact activities. Okay, so when I say limit high impact activities, cardio sessions, because you're doing it on a repeated basis for 30, 40 minutes and above, you're stressing the same muscles and joints over time. So you want to limit the stress and drying forces that go through your tissues, because at the end of the day, you have other sessions during the week. And the last thing that we want is for a particular session to cause you a lot of fatigue, soreness that might impact your performance and adherence with other sessions during the week. All right. And like I said before, your heart is a dumb muscle. So we want to ensure that we pick modalities where it's low impact, something that you can repeat over time with limited byproducts or limited negative consequences, so to speak, such as soreness. And that kind of leads into my third point. You want to separate weightlifting away from cardio. And this particularly applies to people with dual goals, strength and also fitness, because at the end of the day, you want to hit both of these session types with, I guess, the max output that you can. You don't want to do one session and come into the next with some sort of fatigue, which might limit your output. So there's lots of different, I guess, goals in terms of why you want to do cardio, but I want to boil it down to 2 main ones that I probably see in majority of people. I know it's a bit of a generalization, but I feel like this would tick most of the boxes. So in terms of general fitness, by general fitness, I mean you can do the capacity of an individual to do a certain task for a period of time, right? So people with a high general fitness can do X activity for longer periods of time. They can go for a longer walk, or they can be on their feet more often during their day job, for example, like a tradie or something. All right. So for people who want to increase their general fitness and also have general health benefits, the key here is you want to increase your salary. So if I go back, you want to increase this blue zone here, blue line, blue system. And the reason and the way we do that is we want to accumulate time at zone 2. All right. So if I go back, we want to accumulate our training time, our cardio session time within this heart rate here. So 60 to 70% of your max heart rate. Okay. So if for those playing at home, 60 to 70% for, I guess, like a 30-year-old individual would probably be around 130 to 140 beats per minute. So you want to maintain your heart rate in that zone for as long as you can, and you want to build that over time. In saying that, you can still do hard sessions. All right. So this is where the 80-20 rule will come into play. All right. The main reason why we want a more favorable approach to easy sessions, 80-20, is because one, you want to limit, fatigue and other negative byproducts that are produced when we do harder cardio, more intense cardio. But it's still beneficial to have in there once in a while just to push the needle a bit more further towards your goals. But the majority of our sessions should be relatively easy in that zone 2 area just to help juggling different kinds of sessions and also strength work as well. And the second one that's most common in terms of why people want to do cardio is weight loss. All right. So weight loss in its most simplest form is energy use is greater than energy intake. If that's taken care of, then obviously you want to lose some sort of weight. All right. So that gives us an idea of why we want to do cardio, because we can burn a bit more energy during the day to help us shift the balance of energy use over energy intake. All right. So in saying that, that might give you an idea that you need to do higher intensity cardio in order to burn more energy, which is true. However, it comes back to that, stimulus to fatigue ratio. If you do high intensity cardio, yes, you might burn more energy within the session, but you might come into other sessions during the week with a bit more fatigue, which might limit your output later on in the week. Right? So it might not be as sustainable compared to doing, let's say, 30 minutes at a zone 2 intensity, which can be repeated more often. And over time, that will help you use more energy, which will help with your weight loss compared to just doing high intensity cardio, but you burn out more quickly. The second thing we want to consider is what kind of weight loss. All right. So for some people, they might just want to focus on losing as much weight as they can, which is perfectly fine. But for some other people, they might want to get quote unquote lean. So in this case, they want to lose a bit of fat, but also keep a bit of muscle. So here we've got to consider how cardio sessions can fit in with strength sessions. Okay. So we'll talk a bit more about that and how to weave those two together. But that's a really important topic to discuss, which I'll talk about later. And then the third point is you want to maximize movement throughout the day. Okay. So it's all well and good to do a quote unquote cardio session, a dedicated cardio session a couple of times during a week. But there's, 23 hours of the day that you're going to be potentially moving around in, not sleeping, of course, but there's other hours during the day where you might be able to do a bit more movement. And this will also help with the equation in number 1 here, energy use throughout the day. And for people, going back to that example here, you want to start with the lowest hanging fruit. For some people, this third point might be a great starting point for them in terms of cardio. Just getting them to move more often, taking a walk when they can. Doesn't have to be a formal cardio session, such as a run or a circuit, so to speak, which is most oftenly connoted with cardio. And the fourth point, and this addresses the second part of the equation, number 1, is diet will reign supreme. Not a particular emphasis in this presentation, and probably out of my scope, but you want to ensure that your diet's in control and in a good place in order for this to happen in number 1. So an example session that you can have for a zone 2 intensity is you want to pick, or this is how I like to do it, you want to pick about 4 to 6 exercises, all right? And with these exercises, you want to do them at a conversational intensity, conversational pace, where you can hold a conversation with another person, all right? So in your head, it probably seems very cruisy, which it is. That's the whole point, all right? Your heart rate will probably be around 130 to 140 beats, all right? And because of this, you don't need much rest in between the exercises, okay? So as you can see here, these exercises go for 30 seconds each, minimal rest between the different stations. You might have like 5 seconds rest to move on to the next station, but there's limited rest after the round's finished, and you keep going until you hit your desired session time. Usually you want to start off with about 20 minutes, all right? But if you're starting out, you can go 10 minutes and build, add another 1 or 2 rounds every week, and trying to build as much as you can within your time constraints, of course. And in particular, notice here, in terms of the exercises, you want to limit high impact activities, like I mentioned before. So you might notice here, there's a lot of low impact activities, and combined with the relatively low intensity, these won't cause a lot of, stress on the body. All right. So stationary bike, boxing, yoga push-ups, bodyweight step-ups, med ball slams. All right. These are not too jarring on the body, so you can repeat these for as much as you want within reason. And then the next one is for zone 3+. So again, if I go back here, zone 3+, about greater than 70 to 80% intensity. So similar to the zone 2 session, right? You want to pick about 4 to 6 exercises. Again, the reason why I say 4 to 6 exercises is to help with variability and also maybe equipment considerations as well. And you don't want to stress the same muscle group too often. So here, because it's a bit more high intensity, usually greater than 6 out of 10, you want to have some sort of rest here. All right. So the greater the intensity, the closer the work to rest ratio is 1-to-1. So 1-to-1 could be 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off. But if you're doing, let's say, like a 6 out of 10 intensity, then you can go to a higher work to rest ratio. So you can go 3-to-1. So it might be 45 seconds on, 15 seconds off. And that will help with maintaining the target zone that you're trying to chase, whether that's zone 3, 4, or 5. All right. And again, similar concept applies with the zone 2. You want to pick exercises that are relatively low impact that you can repeat as well. So here we've got a 2-to-1 work to rest ratio, 30 to 15. All right. You have 1 to 2 minutes of rest after the round is completed. And this is completed at about a 7 to 8 out of 10 intensity. So putting this all together, all right, we have a example weekly schedule of someone, of a client potentially, who is working in an office job. So they're going to be largely sedentary and they have limited training experience. And their goal here is to keep up with kids and also get better physically, strength and also fitness. Okay. So all I want you to focus on here is, number one, because they have limited training experience and they're largely sedentary, the lowest hanging fruit for them is to just move more often. All right. That's their quote unquote cardio that they need. All right. Doing that will take care of, I guess, the initial adaptations that they'll see early on in their fitness journey. All right. So getting a better baseline fitness. So as you can see here, we don't have like a quote unquote designated cardio session except for Friday. All right. But we have days where they'll be told to walk the dog, all right, 1, 2, 3 times a week. And that's more than enough for them to get the ball rolling in terms of their baseline fitness, all right, accumulating steps throughout the day. And then another point to note here is you want it to separate your strength session, so your weightlifting, away from your, I guess, cardio sessions. So Monday, gym work, Tuesday, walk. The reason why we might do Friday both is because the cardio in this day is easy, all right? So it's low impact, low intensity. So you can get away with doing these two back to back, right, within one session, because it won't affect too much given that it's a relatively low intensity. And you might progress this person continually by gradually introducing more formal cardio sessions or increasing the walk duration or intensity of the walk. Keep it simple for them. In terms of another example, we have Jill here. Jill, teacher, been training for 3 years consistently. Her goal is to lose weight, but wants to keep toned, and her training frequency is 2 times a week. However, has time to do other, sessions on her own, but limited to under 30 minutes. All right. So again, I want to focus here on separating weightlifting away from cardio. All right. So you see on Monday, she might do like an upper body session with her PT. in the morning, and then at night she might do an easy cardio session. Right. So by separating the strength work and gym work with the cardio session morning to night, that gives us enough time to recover, so that we don't come into the session too fatigued. And also another consideration we might think about is, because we're doing upper body here, we might do a lower body based cardio session here, just to separate upper and lower body areas. And again, because they have limited time, so under 30 minutes, right? This is where we can start to consider putting in more intense cardio methods in order to burn as much energy as we can. As we go back to this here, all right, if she wants to lose weight, all right, we need to increase her energy use. However, she has limited time, right? So that means we want to focus on more higher intensity cardios to increase our bang for buck, so to speak, right? So that's why we have harder sessions on Thursday, Saturday, and then just general encouragement to do more movement throughout the week, which is probably applicable to most people here. And the reason why we still keep our strength sessions is because she wants to keep some sort of muscle tone. And then considerations here as well, Wednesday to Thursday, you might do lower body Wednesday, and on the Thursday, you might do a more upper body based cardio session. So exercises that target the upper body. So all in all, these are probably the three main points to consider when forming your own cardio session. You want it to be relatively low impact, all right? Exception to if you're trying to develop your running capacity and running base, which is a different kettle of fish, all right? But for the most part, for people doing circuit type cardio work or just general cardio work, they want it to be low impact because, again, you're going to be doing it for a repeated amount of time. Number two, you want it to be easy to do, all right? Because you're going to do it on a repeated basis, the last thing you want to do is trying to figure out how to do the exercise during the session. So you want to keep it relatively easy and in your wheelhouse. And the last part, you want to keep it fun, right? The more fun it is, the more chance that you're going to stick to it and be more consistent and adherent. And any questions there? Time to get going. Yeehaw. All right.
You want to stop recording?